Hi, Katrina. Here we go. Hi, friends. We are live. And before I introduce you to our special guests, I'm Emily. I'm the founder and CEO of Seed&Spark.
I'm so sorry. I'm having stomach problems today. And now I've ruined it. Okay.
You do what you need. It's 2020. Anything can happen. I just want to really quickly acknowledge the land that any of you is sitting on, which, with very few exceptions, has been stolen from the people who are caring for it for centuries before you. And Indigenous rights are human rights, and the sort of original abolitionist movement has ties there. And so I think we want to pay very close attention to the research that we can do to acknowledge the people who've been caring for the land that we're on. My favorite app for that is called nativeland.ca, and you can download and see exactly whose land you're on wherever you are, at least in North America. And without further ado, I'm actually going to let you guys introduce yourselves, because I think you should teach everyone how to say your names properly. And we'll start with Katrina. How do you say your name?
I like to use it well. Clearly, this is my name. My name's Katrina Davis. Hello.
Get closer to your microphone, Katrina.
Oh, wait.
Oh, no, now we can't hear you at all.
Can you hear me?
A little bit.
Oh. Like, is this good? But my name is Katrina Davis while I fix my sound.
Who wants to go next? I want you to teach the world how to say your names, because I know it's a problem.
Go ahead if you'd like.
Yeah, no, sorry. I'm still thinking about Katrina's microphone. I'm Atsuko Okatsuka, and that's how you say it. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am Myq Kaplan. I wrote in my my little is it a header, a footer, whatever it is there where I could write it. I wrote it so you could say it, because it's you might not have seen some of it, and you might have seen other of it. But yeah, it's pretty out loud, very simple, and I'll stop talking. Myq Kaplan.
Welcome, you guys. I'm so super duper excited that you are here for so many reasons. In part because I'm a huge fan of all of your work, and I've been very lucky to be able to be with some of you live, to work with a couple of you, and this has been one hell of a year. And I thought, if we were to have a conversation with some, okay, fix me. Is it comics or comedians, guys? What do I say?
Both is fine for me.
Do you have preference? Katrina, fix your microphone. What's going on there?
Is this better?
No, you sound like you're from a very far away tunnel.
Yeah, a little muffled.
I feel like it's not picking up the microphone around your neck, and so it's hearing you through it. But these three are people whose work I really enjoy, but also who I admire as humans, because of the way they navigate whatever complicated landscape the world throws, and still manage to be, I don't know, who you are in the world, which is like funny and also human. And Atsuko, maybe you could kick us off and just tell me, like, where were you in your career when COVID hit, and what has changed?
Yeah, well, I feel so silly even talking about a career right now. I just want to start off saying that, like, I've always had a hard time talking about it, because it's so like industry, but So I just want to let you know I'm very uncomfortable talking about this, but where was I in my career when the pandemic hit? Well, I was, we had just gotten greenlit for my game show that I host and created called Let's Go Atsuko, and I was on a Netflix show as well when the pandemic hit. Yeah, to just answer you.
And how are you spending your time now?
I've been still putting out Let's Go Atsuko as a podcast weekly, and with video component, and still writing, at home. There's, and Let's Go, the show for Quibi. We've been working on that during this time too, but also, spending the time to be with family more, and other important things like that. Calls to action, with the protests, the Black Lives Matter, this wave, which is creating a lot of change. And so, yeah, all of that. It's not like I actually have a lot of. It's not like I'm actually just sitting on my butt and staring at the wall like I was in March. You know what I mean? Like collectively, we're all like doing shit right now.
Yeah. I think it's so important to acknowledge how complicated the relationship with being an artist can be, especially right now. And so, Myq, I'd be curious. I mean, you released a special in March? No, in April.
In May.
Oh, in May.
Yes.
What is time?
Oh, yeah, no, it's great question. I'll answer what is time for all of us. Yeah, so it was somewhere in May was the plan to it was originally going to be May 29th, and then for various reasons before the pandemic hit, we decided I was actually meant to go out to LA to do some shows, maybe be on TV to help promote this album that was coming out May 8th. And then in March, we found out that I was going to be basically on the road touring, doing comedy, like March, April, May, June. My schedule was pretty full. I was going to go to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in August, where I'd gone for the first time a couple years ago, and I was excited to bring my new hour of comedy there. But as it turned out, I don't know if it's a spoiler. Everybody knows most of the story that things aren't happening. I didn't go. I think one of the shows I was supposed to do in April was at a college in Wisconsin, and I had a bunch of shows scheduled, and they all got postponed. One of them turned into a virtual show. So a lot of shows have become like this, like either some kind of quote unquote stand up or a podcast or like a strange, screaming into the ether void, just kind of being like, is this anything? Performance art kind of something. And I found that these experiences have been valuable. Like I live with my girlfriend, and so I'm happy to have a human being in my regular orbit of experience. And I've been on the phone and on Zoom calls and, with friends and family and loved ones during this time. So I feel like I'm grateful for the internet in doing all it can, obviously not just for entertainment, not just for professional purposes. I second Atsuko's sentiments about like how I was glad that in the beginning of the pandemic, I had time to promote the album that I'd recorded a year earlier, that I was grateful that I got to. I didn't know how fortunate I was that I got, I was like, I feel fortunate that I get to do stand-up, all that I have. And then now that I've been, months without doing it live, like, wow, I remember when that happened a year ago. And now I'm very proud of it. And I'm glad to be able to have it in the world, and that I was able to have so much time to spend on, doing podcasts and spreading the word and doing online things. And now that it is out, I am also great. Of course, none of these circumstances, I'm not happy that the world is in the state that it is. I'm not happy that there's need to protest, that there's need for, talking about safety and health on a national and global, on a human level. to the extent that it is important to do so. But I'm glad that in the context that now we do all have, time and the capacity and hopefully the desire and motivation to evaluate what it is important to do, like what tweet is important to send, what joke is important to make, like whose voices are important to amplify or listen to. And that'll be enough for my voice for right now, I guess.
Katrina, can we hear you?
I don't know.
Yay!
It was important to amplify voices. Yeah.
I've just been like listening to you guys freaking out on whether or not you're going to be able to hear me.
We hear you beautifully now.
Yeah.
Mary. Okay, cool.
I'm so glad.
I have to say, enough things have happened today that when somebody, I don't believe in celestial shit generally, but somebody today was like, Mercury's in retrograde. And I was like, I am in a place to be down with that today. Like I might believe it. So Katrina, with that being said, you were out every night as far as I could tell.
What do you mean?
You were, before COVID, you were out every night.
Yeah.
You were doing stand-up everywhere all the time. Like I would run into you in the street and you'd be like, on my way to a show. And I'd run into the street again. You're like, on my way to another show. Like it was crazy.
Are you guys neighbors?
No, but I did run in there. Well, the last time, to be fair, I was on a date with a dude, but I like crossed paths with Emily. I was like, Emily. And I was like with my eyes trying to be like, I will explain all of this later. As I but no, I don't know if it's because I feel very grateful in a lot of ways that Mike was saying in terms of like, I'm sad that this is like the catalyst into all of this. But personally, I feel selfish and say like, I've done nothing, but I feel like the shutdown happened. And I just kind of, even when I was doing like a bunch of shows, I was actively looking at my calendar and making sure I had days that I was home, making sure I had enough nights to do yoga and like sleep and like not get burnt out. Like it would be a show I really wanted to do, but I would be like, I have to ask him for another date because if I do it that night, I'm going to be tired and not do well and then be mad. So there's just no point. So I was already working on like spacing all of that out. And whenever I have panic attacks or anything like that, my main thought is that I just want everything to stop. So I kind of felt like I got what I asked for. Like, when everything first happened, I totally just embraced the shutdown. Like people were canceling shows and I was like, no problem, cool. I'm gonna stay home and sleep. Like, I don't care. Like, also I'm an only child. Both my parents have worked like either nights or multiple jobs or gone to school. I used to come home, make my own like dinner, watch Judge Judy and be by myself till like 11 o'clock at night. So I think I'm used to being by myself. Like it's fine. So I feel like I personally feel like a jerk even talking about this because I kind of just went with, I was like, oh, okay, everything stopped, righteous, and just did that for a couple of weeks. And people were like, what are you going to do? Are you going to do Mike's? I was like, I don't know. It's been a week and a half. Why don't you write a new joke? Like, chillax. And so I always told people, even in terms of the way things are now with shows, when people were like, oh, are you going to do a Zoom show? That's so weird. Like being weird and judgmental about the platform, whether it was because they were afraid of it or whatever. I was like, I'm not going to talk to anybody about anything. If someone asks me to do one, I'll do it and try it. It's whatever. I just want to tell a joke. So like I did a Zoom show. You could hear people. I felt the people. And I was like, this isn't the same as stand-up. This isn't the same as a stage. This isn't the same as like being in the back with your friends, blah, blah, blah. But like, if your mission in doing comedy is to make people laugh, you're doing that on a Zoom show. And I personally, as far as where I am in comedy, like, yeah, before this, I had a bunch of righteous, like, I do not act, but like, I had a bunch of righteous auditions. I had a bunch of stuff I was really excited about, but it's like, those people still have money when we bring this stuff back. Like, I'm starting to get stuff. Hopefully, like, some of that momentum will only be empowered by the excitement of people ready to have some sense of normalcy. So even people being like, oh no, my project, blah, 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 if it wasn't something you were able to take digital, I feel like the momentum of we're back will be able to help. Like, I'm not super freaked out about any of that stuff, but in terms of the Zoom shows, I feel like where I am in comedy and like just not like just coming up still, I've gotten to be seen by people in different countries that were never going to see me. Like I was supposed to go to Nashville and I had to cancel it. I still got to do one of the shows that I was supposed to do there. We raised a bunch of money. I still got to talk to the comics that I would have met on Zoom. 2 of the comics are from like, they're from Georgia, I'm from Florida, but like we're from the same like original comedy community, kind of. They both live out here. So it's like, even digitally, I'm still finding that we're just adjusting and still kind of making the connections and moving forward. And like, even in terms of making the move, like what's happening right now. And the first show I had after like protesting and crying for 2 weeks, and I was like, this is so dumb. Like, what am I even gonna do? And then I went to a protest and I was like, I can't wait to do protest jokes. Like, that's all I wanted was for whoever happened to be on this stream to hear everything that I had to say about, like, in terms of just being a marketer, it's like, yes, please see my pretty dark skin, say everything that you don't want to hear on top of some stuff that like you want to think that I am. And I'm not. Like, I'm going to show you with my existence why you believe in stereotypes, kind of thing. So I feel like that kind of gave a purpose to the shows going forward that didn't make me feel like such a narcissistic douchebag for being like, sign on and watch me. For one of the shows, even being afraid of these huge platforms where you don't know where people are, I kind of went, I'm donating all my tips today, so you can like not give me money or whatever, and just kept going. People gave me so much, it made other people donate. We raised like $1,500 that day for one show for like the ACLU and Black Lives Matter and wherever other people felt they wanted their money to go. But it's like, I don't know, dude, I'm feeling pretty all right about it now. Like, stuff's pretty gnarly right now, but we need to keep it going, and we're all I feel like people even that aren't in denial of the way things are kind of leaning into just accepting it and really trying to make things work for them in different ways. So it's like, let's do this, dude.
Yeah. I think you summed up the whole live stream.
Good night, everybody.
It was good. It was great seeing you. Here, I'm just gonna close my laptop.
Can I say a thing real quick? I completely resonate with everything you're saying about doing Zoom shows. Like, it's certainly in some ways nothing like stand up, but it's also more than nothing. And imagine, for the people who say to you, like, you want to do a Zoom show? That's weird. Like, what about the first person who ever did a stand-up show? You want to stand up in front of people and tell them what you think and feel, and that you think stuff is funny, and that you just want them to sit there and laugh? That's weird. Everything's weird. So what are you doing?
And I feel like it's making people kind of expand creatively, because like I'm kind of just doing the same stuff, but I'm seeing people kind of use the platform, use the fact that they can go off screen and come back. Like, they're fun. I stay for every Zoom show I'm on because they're fun to watch when the people are like, into it.
Yeah. I'm kind of scared to go back to regular stand-up because I've gotten used to Zoom stand-up. Like, I had a moment the other day where I was like, I think I really like doing these Zoom shows. And I was like, oh, snap out of it. I was like,
how righteous.
No, what?
I like them, yeah.
No, I was like, I think I prefer it. I was like, I prefer it. And then I had to like be like, Atsuko, one day soon you will go back out and have to wear pants. And I was like, I will freak out the first time I have to do a show on stage. And I look down and I do realize I am wearing pants. And I will like, I would have a outer body moment. You know what I mean? I feel like the first set that I do on stage, I have to bring a laptop up and like transition. I have to do the jokes into the laptop just to like get back to, even if there's an audience there in front of me sitting. I've thought of this.
When you're nervous, you just imagine the audience's laptops now instead of naked.
Oh yeah.
I need to be front facing. Like, now I have to zip up when we're back on stage. I have to zip up my dresses on the back now because you might see the back of me, like, I don't know.
I did on a Zoom think, like, I just happened to look over and saw how many people were on. And I got sweaty looking at the number. Like, I was like, if I was in front of that many people in real life, not like I wouldn't have done, like, I might have done okay, but I would have been so much more like, whoo! And so, yeah, getting in real life, it's going to be.
Can I ask, at these Zoom shows, do you have the comments turned on so that people can like interact with you in real time?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
How do you not get distracted? Like, what is and do you play with that? Is that like a new opportunity for audience interaction? Do you ever pick up on that stuff? And like, I don't know, your guys' brains work in very special ways. So I'm just curious, like, how do you?
I would say, like, sometimes there's all these different formats, you know, like sometimes you're doing it on Zoom. Sometimes it's going like directly to Facebook Live or YouTube or on Instagram Live. Like some of them, you can't help but see the comments. And sometimes if you look at them, then you can get either distracted or delayed because there is this time, you know, shift that takes place between when they type and when you see it. And then they might be like, that was so great. And you're like, which? The thing I said 1 second ago or 3 seconds ago? So I'm like, in your comments, please put in the comment if you think it's funny, which thing it was. And if you think it wasn't funny, put somebody else's name or whatever you want to do to help me and my ego. But on Zoom, one of the benefits is, and I think, you know, if we keep moving forward in this paradigm, which I also was invited to do a live show like outdoors this weekend, and I'm still same. My girlfriend has asthma, and so I'm erring on the side of not going out. I'm like, I'd rather do a show like a month later and regret having not gone out when I could have than murder my girlfriend. Those are my priorities, but on Zoom at least, and perhaps different technologies will continue to adapt and, you know, be offered. You don't have to look at the comments. In fact, you can have it like, you can have the comments closed. So if you want to look at them once in a while, like some of the shows that I do, like one of the college shows that I did online, I was like, I have to do at least 40 minutes. I was like, and I don't want to just do my jokes that like I for whatever reason, I don't want to just do my next album now and have it be online in an unfinished form. So most of the shows that I am doing now, I'm riffing, I'm in the moment, I'm telling jokes that I've written today or now or recently about this experience, about, you know, about what is happening, you know, because even when I start telling an old joke, I'm like, so the other day I went into a business, and I'm like, well, clearly, you know, that's not true. The other year I went into a business, and like that becomes like a new thing. But so I am, sometimes I'll have my girlfriend in the room with me, and she'll be looking at the comments. And if like a question comes in, or if something comes in that she's like, hey, somebody said this thing, and maybe you can respond if you want to about it. So that's like a nice option to have, to be able to look at them if you don't want to, which I recommend for comments in general. Just if you have a YouTube video, you don't look at the comments. Have a friend or a beloved family member or somebody who you care about, who cares about you, who knows you and your comedy, look at the comments and have them filter out the ones you don't want to see and be like, look at all these great comments that came in, or these good questions. So I mean, half joking, half truthful. But that is what I have been doing. I do sometimes get carried away by the comments, but it's good to be able to look at them if you want to, but not have to.
I just want to say, somebody asked a question about, they saw my babies running back and forth in the background, and like, how is it doing comedy with kids? And I have to say, I don't know. I'm not a comedy super fan. So I have no idea. I can tell you what it's like to try to run a company with small kids, and it is like 2020 became people and moved in with you. Is what it is like. Is like it's utter and unbelievable and unrelenting chaos.
If you've not seen Emily's collection of tiny babies crying on glass, I love it. It's my favorite series.
It was literally just happening right now. I couldn't get my photo.
I'm not joking. It's art. I love it. It's raw emotion. But no, I just the other night did a show that I did not do well on, and we were on a different we were on a different platform, but it was on Twitch, and I was like, so glad I could not see the Twitch comments when I was up, but I like reading them before, like if I'm reading them even during someone else's set, because I feel like it's kind of like when you're listening to someone before they go up, to just kind of feel the room out and what people are responding to and stuff like that. So I like doing that and trying not to get too distracted. All the ones where I've read them the most have been more of a form of like this, where I can like read and catch up and cheat. I haven't done one where I've like real time read them. That seems hard.
Yeah, I think I'm learning a lot of like how my fellow comedians through doing these Zoom shows, like the people who are able to respond to the chat comments coming in live versus like I can't I don't look at the comments at all when I'm doing the show. It's just me looking at the camera like this, and then I'll respond to if I hear something in the background, because that is what I like about the Zoom shows, is because you can hear the audience. There's an element of risk to it, just like when you're doing it live on a stage. Like one time I was doing my joke, and then somebody in the audience, somebody just kept started screaming, Jay, 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 you know what I mean? And I'm doing my joke, so I had to stop, like I would in a regular comedy show, right? I would be like, did we find Jay? You know what I mean? Do we know if Jay's okay? Is Jay here? Because somebody is looking for you. You know what I mean? And I get to like play around with that, And Jay happened to be someone's son that was like playing in the background or whatever. But I can't do comments. But I have been in, like, I'm an audible, what is it called? An audible?
I'm that too.
I hear. Auditory learner. And so I don't know if that has to do with how you multitask, being able to read, and I don't know. I just get distracted easily. I think it depends on like how you learn and how your processes. But it's been interesting to see that, like my husband is dyslexic, and so I feel for, it's a very real thing to have to like read live, and English is like my third language, you know what I mean? Like reading, and I would go crazy. I can't do that. And so I think it depends on, you guys are smarter than me is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we're smarter than you because we only learned one language,
Exactly. Yeah. No, it was unfair. I threw that card. I always do that. And it's unfair to be like, yeah, it's my third language, but and that's why.
Can I
use what you got?
Regarding the first few Zoom shows that I did, actually, they didn't have any of the audience audible. They were like, we don't know what kind of noise there'll be in the background. And Zoom in particular, if like an audience member laughs louder than you're talking, then you won't hear your own voice anymore. And so going into it, I was already like, this is not stand-up, but it is, what is it? And I felt like, well, if I do my greatest joke that I've ever written that normally gets everybody to laugh, but I'm not going to hear anyone laughing, then why not just make up something new and say like, the most fun present thing that I can say in the moment, and then have that get exactly the same reaction that my greatest joke would have gotten. And honestly, that's like, if I've heard people talk about it as like constricting, to be like, if you can't hear the audience, that's constricting. But in a way, it can also be freeing, because I'm like, in some way, I'm like, I'm a comedian. I've been doing comedy for 18 years. Even if I take a couple months off, even if I'm doing a different thing, like I'm no longer worried about it. In the beginning of comedy, it was important to go out every night and do it, because if you didn't do it, then you weren't it. Like if you're not doing it when you're starting, then you aren't being it. But now I'm like, if you're being it enough, then like I didn't have to worry about whether I am it. So I'm like, what am I doing? Doesn't matter. But so I'm glad now. I feel like one concern that I have is like, I've been making up so much new stuff that I think is the best. And then when we get back to audiences, I'll be like, check out this hours of comedy that I have. And they're like, and I'm like, and I probably will be like starting over again. Like, okay, back to caring what people think in the moment a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. I will say it's hard. The only thing I think is a challenge for me when there's no audience is timing. Like I definitely didn't feel any pressure, because like you said, you can't tell. But then I felt like
it's timing. Okay.
I feel cocky waiting. Like, are people laughing? I'm sure they're laughing, but then you just don't want to like runaway train. So I feel like that was probably the only thing that felt weird on the couple, where I haven't been able to hear anyone at all.
Oh, I do runaway train. That is. I say that other comedians will pause for laughs, but for me, you'll have to rewind for laughs. I see there is a question coming in from Meg on YouTube.
Yeah.
Wait, and I think, hold up. Okay.
Yeah, I think this question's actually kind of is really important, and I know top of everyone's mind. And part of the reason for this is, look, the reason this was my dream panel for this time is because I think I've seen a lot of your collective comedy, and I have never once seen you punch down. And I have never once seen you make a joke that made me itchy in a dark way, like only itchy in a purposeful way, right? Like, oh, you just went to the thing that I am supposed to be uncomfortable about, right? And so I knew this question would come up, and I was like, I'm going to pull together the people who are actually qualified to answer this question. And I'm just telling you that I deeply believe you are the panel that is qualified to answer this question.
Oh, that is so sweet. Now let's see this question then. Yeah, all right, let's see if we can be that panel.
We're in the middle of these cross sections. So it's the specific question is, what is going to be a faux pas to joke about regarding Black Lives Matter and COVID, and what is fair game and when? And I would say more broadly, the topic of this entire panel is like, how are we joking in these uncomfortable times?
Well, as a white man, I think I'm uniquely qualified to talk about putting my foot in my mouth when it comes to race and gender. Sincerely, I just wanted to make, that's one way you can joke in these times, is to acknowledge, I mean, that you, like, none of us knows anything. And coming for, and wanting to, I think wanting to be of service, like comedically and communally, and like in all the ways that you can, like, it doesn't mean, you know, I feel like I in my time, like, would have made fun of like Christian comedians at a time when, like, if they're like, we don't swear and we're only telling jokes that a baby could like and a grandparent could like. And and there's some amazing Christian comedians, and there's some not very funny Christian comedians, just like there's some amazing edgy comedians and some not very funny edgy comedians. And when you're not funny and you're edgy, you're just saying mean racist things, probably. And so I think, I mean, my quickest answer would be, like, you know, there's so many masters of comedy who talk about difficult topics all the time, whatever the difficult topics are. And it has to be, first of all, funnier than it is whatever uncomfortable quality it is. And it has to be important or true or meaningful or resonant and funny. It has to be, there is a higher bar to not make people, and you're going to make some people upset because not everybody will have the same thoughts as you. But anyway, as a white man, I'll turn the table over.
Well, as someone with COVID, no, I'm just kidding. It's like, as someone with COVID, this is how you joke about COVID. No, but, you know, like, how do you joke about something, especially particularly these two topics, right? If it's like, because I know comedians who got COVID. And so when they make like maybe like an edgier joke about COVID or something, you know, their thing is, well, I've had it. So I'm going to talk about it. You know, somebody who's been doing this very well actually is Lori Kilmartin.
I was going to say, yes.
On her Twitter right now. She just lost her mother this morning to COVID. And but for the past few days, she's been tweeting in real time, sharing her experience, spending the last few days with her. In the meantime, just zingers like crazy.
Can I tell you one?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh,
3 hours ago, she wrote, "She died not at home, surrounded by people she'd never met."
Yeah, so very dark, but also you can't help but be like, haha, you know what I mean, when you read it, because she's very good. She's a true comedian in that, you know, I can't speak to Katrina, you and Myq too, but like a lot of us got into comedy because of, you know, trying to come out of tragedy or trying to find levity in tragic situations. And so, you know, Lori really like showcased that sort of sentiment, that process that we have as comedians, which is when something hard is happening, like in real time, like the sort of need to escape from it, but also like and also this desire to entertain at the same time with her tweets. I mean, here's one that was dark, but it's what happened. So her mother just passed, and then she just said, she said, "Wow, my mom's new breathing routine is quite the closer." And it's like, you know, but she kind of not only gets to say it. I mean, her mom just passed. You know, my mom's new breathing routine is quite the closer, and you know, she's been like just beautifully weaving these emotions, up and down emotions, mourning at the same time, being able to make others laugh and make herself laugh, you know, by crafting these jokes. So I just wrote back. I said, "Damn it, Lori," because she made me laugh and sad at the same time. I said, "Damn it, Lori." I just said, because I typed and deleted, but your tweets gave us life. Like I you know, multiple times I was like, should I say it? Is it too soon for me as someone who's not Lori going through this? But I wanted to at the same time honor her ability to find levity in all this. So I tweeted it. I tweeted at her, and then she LOL'd, you know.
I think there is something about what is happening with Lori right now that is showing us all how to cope in something that isn't going to be over anytime soon. Like, she is going to heard about this for a really long time, even before this morning. Even them getting to go see her was a huge deal. She was like cracking enough jokes to get the hospital tag to get them to see her mom. Like like her using her platform is why she got to like hold her mom's hand, you know? So I feel like amongst that, and also showing the nuances of like one a couple days ago, even just thinking about things that can be so gnarly when they're so like longer. And she said, "My sister has insulted my tap water for the 3rd time. I don't think our relationship will survive this." That made it's like, even amongst like, will be like, I told my friend the other day to protest, I was like, we need a special armband as comics because we look inappropriate. We are cracking up because I haven't seen these people in so long. So it's like the overwhelming joy of seeing your friends and also realizing why you're there. The first one, I was terrified that we were going to get like run over by cars. So the second we didn't get run over, I just started bawling. So I'm like laughing with my friends and crying, and they're like yelling at me for getting separated from them and like all of these emotions. So I feel like her tweets about something so painful is showing us that like, whether you're a creative or a comic, or I feel like anybody can relate to, like, the other parts of your brain don't stop. Like, you literally can't just be sad all the time. At some point, your brain is gonna break and find that part in the tragedy that's hilarious, hopefully. So like, I don't know. It's so great that she's showing that to everyone.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sorry, Myq was gonna say something.
Don't worry. Now it's 3 things, but I'll do them real quick. First, one more of Lori's jokes, a quote from Khalil Gibran, and one by me. So Lori, this joke that I found is so her father died a couple years ago, and she made like a comedy album, a special, I believe, called like 45 Jokes About My Dead Dad. And so now she tweeted, "Glad I only had 2 parents. I can't do this again." It's just so like, it's funny is not the only appropriate word. It needs to be all the things. So the Khalil Gibran quote from the Prophet that I love is the greater that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. And it doesn't mean that you always will. Not every sorrowful thing leads to the exact amount of joy that could come out of it. But Lori is like this sorrow that is carved into her experience. Every moment of these past several days has manifested in this, also like breathing in sorrow and breathing out joy. And I certainly shouldn't have chosen my joke to be the closer of these 3, but like sincerely, I feel like during these times, it's reasonable for some people to be like, how can you laugh at a time like this? How can you joke at a time like this? Because right where they are right now, they can't imagine it because they have their experience. But for us, I feel like we're like, how can you not joke at a time like this? How can you not, like, this is what's happening, whether you're laughing or not, whether you're joking or not. Can you find a way that is personal, unique, unique to you, and also the fact that we are all experiencing this global trauma of a kind that, some people, for some people maybe it's more like a stubbed toe, and for some people it's more like a broken leg, but we all, everyone is experiencing something either vicariously or personally. So and nobody is doing with respect to this, the wrong thing. Like Lori is doing the rightest thing. Somebody else might lose a loved one, whether a comedian or not, and not write any jokes about it. And that's also the right thing.
Right. Yeah. But when it comes to writing jokes, I think what comedians, the place that we write jokes from, that with tragedy, that, no offense, but maybe other writers don't tap into. I don't know. What am I doing? What is this? A roast about why comedians are best? No.
Names. I'm joking.
But no. Do you ever like, or you ever like weep and you're like crying and you're just like, it's like the most crazy psychotic cry, right? Like you're in so much pain and you're just weeping, and then you calm down and you just stare at a wall and a part of you just goes, haha, that crazy laugh that you do when you're crying. Sometimes you're like, it's that part that a lot of comedians write from. You know what I mean? That moment where you're laughing because what you're going through so much pain. I think that's.
I think
I don't know how to describe it. I don't even know if there's a scientific word for it.
Yeah, I'm sure there is some Latin something that someone will like put in the chat or something that's like actually derived from the original. But I feel that there is something about that break, because I said this the other day on my friend's podcast, but it was just like too good. It was one of the days, I think it was like the week before the protest. It was like that Thursday or Friday, and I'd like cried every morning and just opened up my day with like trying not to read stuff and then reading stuff and then crying and being like, okay, and then like starting my workday online. So I bawled, I washed my face, I opened my laptop. My first message is from a coworker, who, here's the thing, preface, darling person. I love this person. They are fantastic. They are in no way like meaning to be insensitive. First message, Katrina, they shut down Bath and Body Works. Where am I going to get my Coco Shea? And I read it like 3 times. I was like, this is too good. This is hilarious. I just laughed. And I was just like, this was the universe giving me a joke just for me alone in my apartment, because what of all the things that a white man could be upset about missing on today, like really perfect. And it's like even the discomfort that like that person would maybe feel if I brought it up to them in person, they would be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'd be like, it's fine. Like you didn't know, but it's hilarious. Like that doesn't make it any less funny to me that like that moment was what brought me out of being so sad, was even just being like, there are so many people that did not have this morning, and that's kind of hilarious to me. That there's a bunch of people just like whipping legs, like kicking in, like even the fact that that is a discrepancy in the reality that we're all experiencing, like, kind of makes me laugh a little bit.
I mean, there's a question that's been asked here that I think might be important to introduce as a layer from E. Crouch, which is, do you think the jokes from this time are going to hold up? And one of the things I'm hearing from you is when you're writing from that place that is everybody's weird experience, that place between sort of sorrow and joy, like that's universal. But I'm curious of just like this material that you're generating right now, how do you feel about its like timeliness or timelessness? And does that, I mean, how much does that factor in? I don't know. It's
a great question. I think that probably, if I had to make a prediction, which I don't, so you can't make me, but I've heard a thing like people who have knowledge don't make predictions. People who make predictions don't have knowledge. But my guess is, and personally speaking, I think ideally when we're performing live again, when there's a vaccine, when there's herd immunity, when we're not as concerned, when the international pandemic has passed, that I think the urgency, like the jokes won't keep coming, and they will be replaced with other jokes, and maybe the best of them. Maybe, for every 100 pandemic jokes there are, then maybe a couple of them will be good enough. Like I have one joke that I wrote like a few weeks ago about a thing, like it refers to something that happened in the news that day, that I was like, I hope that I can keep telling this joke, but I'm sure that I also hope that it won't. Like I wrote 10 years ago jokes about gay marriage, and I'm like, oh, I hope everyone doesn't write all my gay marriage jokes. I hope society doesn't progress so much that everyone's on the same page about being for gay marriage in a similar way. I'm like, or I'll be happy for there to be gay marriage and for everyone to be on the same page. And for me, for that, the necessity of that joke, and for my connection to that joke, for the joke to have like ripened, and then, eventually, like, hopefully plucked it, maybe got it on an album or not, and then just being replaced with a new crop. So I'm not concerned that I won't be able to tell my quarantine jokes anymore. And also there'll be tons of people who are like, there's this old joke of Stephen Colbert when during the George W. Bush like press correspondence dinner that I just think about all the time. And it'll be, I just love the joke. He's like, George Bush is consistent. He believes the same thing on Wednesday that he believed on Monday, no matter what happened on Tuesday. And I love that joke so much. I think that is a timeless joke, even though it's a topical joke from the mid 2000s, like, which by itself, I'm like, I think about it so frequently, but also with respect to like, the idea of like some jokes are for a certain time and some jokes are not for that time. So if you try to tell, a joke about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky now, it better be a very good new take on, there better be a reason for telling it now, and not just, oh, Hillary Clinton was in the news again a couple years ago for some emails and a thing. And so now I want to tell you this 25-year-old joke. So I think it won't matter, because when life comes back to, or goes forward to, a hopefully new normal, where the pandemic is gone and racism is solved and systemic oppression is completely gone, I think that's coming at the same time, then we'll have new things to talk about.
Well, yeah, because that's what I was earlier when we were just talking about this more broadly, but in terms of like things that I feel like it kind of counts for both of them as far as things that will hold up and things that could upset people. It's like, as long as it's honest and good, like it's not even that, because I saw some comments about like saying things that won't age well and things that a lot of like liberals might not like. It's like, I like lots of jokes from people that I don't agree with when they're good. A lot of people will rely on the excuse that someone doesn't like their joke because they can't handle it. And it's like, dude, it just wasn't funny. Literally, that is my only beef. Like, write a better joke that I disagree with, and I'll be mad that you made me laugh about it. Because there are comics that I respect for making me laugh about something that I disagreed with, because they were so honest about how they view it, that like, if someone's coming from their true perspective in a respective way, that they're like, look, this is just how I see it, there's no reason for me to want to not laugh at that. I'm not going to be like, oh, let's see what this guy has to say. It's like, no, like, tell me what's up. So I feel like you were saying, yeah, raise the bar, they have to be better, but it's like, sorry, you can't do layups anymore. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah, like Tim Dillon makes so many jokes that make me laugh, and I'm like, I don't think we agree about a lot of things, but
oh, he is going to hell in a handbasket. I love it. It's so funny.
Can I ask you guys a question? So I watch a lot of comedy, and I was actually going to a lot of live comedy shows before the sadness, and now I don't live in LA anymore. And I was noticing something happening at the venues where there would be like 6 or 7 comics, is that every single comic would have a joke about how everybody's taking everything too seriously and you can't joke about anything anymore. And it started to, because I saw enough shows in a short enough period of time as an audience member, it started to feel like they were swearing fealty to a certain like god or club or ideology. And they all, once the first person did it, it was clear that like they all found their time to insert that moment. And it hit hardest for me with the people who I thought like told the worst jokes because I was like, you just weren't funny. It's like they were tasteless, and it also just wasn't funny. It didn't do anything. But it did feel to me like there was clear cultural pressure to like be in the camp of like, you should be able to say whatever you want. And there's a really good question. Madeline Downs has asked this question. What do you do if you tried to make a joke about a challenging subject that didn't hit, or worse, hits in a way that you didn't intend? And how do you make it right? And how do you square that with what appears to me as an outsider as a cultural ideology of you should be able to say whatever the fuck you want. You shouldn't have to apologize for it. Can you unpack that? And am I even anywhere close to right?
That's so dead on. Can I say I'll say a quick thing if I may. Just I want to make fun of briefly the idea of your impression of the comedian. I don't want to make fun of your impression. Your impression is dead on. I want to make fun of those comedians. The comedian is like, you can't say anything these days. You can't say anything these days. I can't. Like, yeah, you can say whatever you want, and so can everybody else about the thing that you're saying. Like, I think there are. The thing that I know about being in comedy is, while of course there are tons of people saying things like you're saying, and we hear them because they're saying it loudly and because they are allowed to say whatever they want, so they're proving themselves wrong. And that like Lenny Bruce and George Carlin went to jail for saying things, and these people are just upset that they're not making a person who doesn't like them say a thing. But Todd Glass and so many comedians, like I think Todd's the person I think of most who says something like, of course you can say whatever you want, but what do you want to say?
And also, you can say anything you want. You're right. You can say anything you want, but you have to be okay with people responding to that thing that you said.
Like, you don't get to choose how people respond to what you say.
That's how comedy works. That's how comedy works. You say things, people react to it. But if the majority of the people, if a bunch of people were hurt by what you said, and it was about that community or something, then you have to go back and reflect and rewrite that joke to actually be good. That's our job that's our only job as comedians. So, right? Like literally it's not just about us saying things into the abyss. No, there's people who receive that information, and literally it's so simple. This is all we have to do as comedians. Did they laugh? Or if you made them cry, like, wow, that's even worse. That's not the reaction you were going for as a comedian. So you're either a shitty comedian, or you have to take the time to be like, that was a terrible joke. That didn't work. Why didn't it work? And if you're too lazy to do that, then you should quit comedy. That's all we have to do is.
I will say that I feel like it's funny that we are so simply talking about empathy about the biggest group of narcissistic sociopaths probably on the face of the planet that like are in jail. Because I think that that's where that disconnect happens, is like Myq said, because the fact that you're even saying, oh, you can't say that. You can say whatever you want. You just want to say whatever you want and get the reaction you want.
No, that's literally not how this works.
And that's where you have to revert. Like, Joe, you don't reverse engineer a joke to make people react the way you want. You have to make the joke get the reaction you want. Like, you don't get to argue people into laughing with you.
Counterpoint.
Yeah. I know that what will really make you laugh is my snarky points on why you should have laughed earlier. Now, like, what? No. So I feel like there is so much, not so much, but like you have to have a basic level of empathy necessary to even get that reaction. And instead of be like, oh, well, what's like, fuck them, be like, oh, I hurt people. And that have your reaction for it to even upset you before you get defensive, which I think is the thing that.
So to Madeline's question, it sounds to me like there is an artist response, which is how do I make my work better to not do the thing? And then there's the public response, which is don't be a defensive dick.
Right. Because I feel like I would also, if this ever happened to me, like in terms of if I said a joke about, because I do the same stuff as everyone else. I send stuff to my friends that identify with other groups and say like, hey, I want to say this thing. I want to say this story about when I realized you were gay in high school. And like, I've written people whole stories and I'll be like, oh my God, I don't remember that at all. But like, for sure, you can say it. I don't care. It's like, you have to write something and because I think also this is a thing with comics sometimes, even with things being digital and having this weird pressure that you want to say something first. But it's like, take the time to write something out and ask someone what their take on it is or what their POV is on it. If that is a concern of yours at all about upsetting other people, it's like, ask. And then even if you do something bad, I feel like I would just be honest about apologizing, knowing that I had no idea. And then I would probably end up having material where I was like, hey, you like, I totally like, hey, you want to hear where a Black girl got in trouble for being racist or whatever it was? You know what I mean? Like the whole point of being a comic is to use your growth. So it's like, yeah, like use it to be better. And instead of you wasting all of this creative time defending something that, like you said, probably isn't that good to begin with.
Right. That hurts people.
Yeah.
I remember, Katrina, when we were editing your comedy special,
Oh,
there was a joke and you were like, there's a word in there that is going to land wrong.
Yep, I forgot about that.
We cut around it. And I thought that was because I was like, I would never have heard it with the ears because you were worried actually about how that joke would land with the Black community.
Yep.
And I obviously, as the white director, was like, not going to catch it. Right. So this is I think that's something that's really, it's interesting to think about, making sure you're passing it in front of the people who it's going to affect the most to make sure, to like be, and that's like research. That's just like work. Right.
Yeah. Well, that I feel like even as a Black woman with everything that's going on right now, in terms of people that maybe feel like bitter about the extra work they may be having to do, whatever, it's like, my parents left Baltimore for a reason. I'm a suburban girl. I've done a lot of work to make sure that I'm not doing a detriment to myself. I have a very integrated life. I could say some sideways, bonkers, whatever, and have a bunch of people think that I don't like, you know what I mean? Stand up for my own, whatever. So it's like, I even have been actively getting better, learning, finding other ways to do things, finding better ways to represent myself on the platforms that I have amongst all of this. It's like, no one is safe. Like, we are all trying to get better right now. And like, anybody who isn't taking responsibility, it's like, that's on them, whatever. But like, no one is immune to adapting to everything that's happening right now and making sure that their art reflects that and comes off in the way that they want it to. Like,
at least without doing the work. Like, we all have to do the work. And doing the work, just PSA, by the way, does not mean you give it to you give the hassle to another Black person to be like, can you tell me what reading I need to do? Do not make them work. You do the work. I have lists. I have so many friends who are like, I'm just getting hit up with recommendations I have to give and lists I have to give, and then they want to hear my story, and it's like, why am I gonna do the work? You do the work. We all got to do the work. We can't. That does not mean you hit up the marginalized community to be like, Atsuko, that woman said the racist thing about Asians. What are you gonna do about it? What am I gonna do about it? I'm sitting here. I'm gonna take a nap. You do something about it. What am I going to do about the racist woman in Torrance? You want me to go down there, put myself at risk when I know she's saying racist things about Asian people, assaulting them physically? No, you do the work. I'm going to sit here and take a nap,
That's one thing I did tell my friends. I was like very appreciative of everyone that was trying to like that, but it was the kind of thing where like, that was a layer of not understanding where things were, because your knee-jerk reaction was just to like reach out to your one friend from high school.
Yeah,
but I did still appreciate it, love it so much. Like, whatever, I'm not going to be mad about anyone that cares, but I do feel like I told people, like, tell someone else in your life why you wanted to reach out to me. Like, whatever story you thought about me, whatever I wrote that made you care about whether I die or not, tell that to someone that thinks that this is stupid, and be like, no, like, I have a person in my life that makes this relevant to me. It's like, tell them why you wanted to reach out to me. It's like, if we're good enough friends, I know you love me already. It's fine. I'll talk to you next week when I've like recalibrated and I'm not staying up till 4 a.m. every day, you know? Like, yeah, it's like, talk to someone else about that doesn't want to hear it, why this matters to you, because you matter to them. I don't matter to them. Clearly, you matter to them. So tell the people that matter to you why other people matter to you, because then they'll say, well, that's my daughter, or so-and-so's a good guy. If that matters to him, maybe there's some relevancy to this. Like, that is way more, I feel like, important than you, like, you know, asking to Venmo me or whatever.
Bestow Venmo, Katrina. Bestow.
You should Venmo.
It was hilarious. My friend was like, yo, people have been trying to Venmo me. And I was like, me too. And my one friend went, ain't nobody trying to Venmo me. Favorite joke so far.
Katrina, a thing that I love that you said is stand up for your own whatever. And I think that is important for everyone to stand up for their own and other people's whatevers. Also, I like when you said, like, no one is safe. I like the context in which you said it is like, hey, we're all in this together, so let's help take care of each other because no one is safe. Whereas I feel like there's some comedians, like whoever has Triggered as the name of their new special, like probably a lot of them out there now, they're like, no one is from my comedy. Hey, no one is safe already without your comedy. So let's do what we can to help make it. Like when people say life isn't fair, like that shouldn't be the end of the conversation. Like, can we make it fairer? Can we make it safer? Can we make it better while also being funny if we're comedians? There was something earlier. Somebody posted, Davey Rogoff posted on YouTube, just a quick response. He said, I understand Lori making COVID jokes, but what about all the content creators who didn't live her experience? There seems to be an empathy/sensitivity question about how others can reference it. And I mean, the answer is do reference it with empathy and sensitivity. Like if you're asking that question, then you clearly have the requisite empathy and sensitivity necessary to do it. If you know that you have an experience different than somebody else's, or that somebody else has an experience different than you, certainly start by writing from your experience, start by talking from your experience. And then like everything that Katrina just said about, check, if you have people in your life, like don't go asking everybody to do work for you, but there are people who have offered work. There are people who have like, I've made lists. Here's a reference. Here's this national resources list that was going around on Instagram. That's still in my Instagram link tree. If you go into my bio, that there's like, how do I help? Here's a bunch of petitions. Here's a bunch of places to donate your money and your time and your attention. Here's voices to amplify. Like there are people doing the work. So start by like, if you're a comedian, like if how to tell people where to see a good comedy show or who's a good comedian because you've been doing that work and living that life. If you're an activist, if you are an activist, then you know where, like who to talk to, how to talk to. And so who are you and who do you have in your life that you can reach out to that is a close friend or close enough that you're like, where do I start? Like, what book do I start with? What website do I start with? Because there are like primers. There's people out there that are like, don't come to me until you're, like you've already taken the 101 class of this thing. Like there's some jokes you won't understand if you haven't seen other comedians already. Like, and so don't start with like meta comedy before you've ever seen comedy. Don't start with meta activism before you've started with, the simplest, like looking within yourself or whatever. I just talked for a long time, but one last quick thing. I have an experience that I remember specifically of when I told a joke, somebody told me that it was a hurtful joke, and I was at first resistant, but then I talked to, it was before like I was as aware of, it was like years and years ago. It was when Chelsea Manning came out as transgender. And I thought that my joke was like neutral. I thought it was not anti-trans. I thought it was, I understand it was not pro, but I thought it was sincerely just about the fact that her last name was Manning. And I was like, oh, that like her last name could be womaning, and I tweeted it and it got shared, publicly enough. Like, I'm not saying it's the greatest joke in the world, but like I tweet a lot of things. I'm like, oh, first thought, best thought, first thought, vomited thought onto the internet. And somebody wrote to me and the thing that was at the time, Chelsea Manning wasn't even the name that everybody knew this person by. So I used her dead name in the tweet because that was the way that it would become recognizable. And somebody explained to me that you think it's neutral, but that is hurtful to use a name that this person has chosen specifically to not use. And I was like, oh, that makes complete logical sense. I didn't have that experience. I didn't understand it. I did at the time run it by a trans friend of mine that maybe I wouldn't do that now. But my trans friend was like, I like the joke. Right. And it's because the community of trans people is not a monolithic community. Right. Some people might like a joke. Some people might not. Some people might want to be called one word. Some people might not. And it's important to talk. Yeah, I feel like I'm preaching to the other preachers right here. But I took the tweet down, and now up until now, I didn't even realize there was a way to tell the story without saying the dead name. And so I've grown in this moment to be like, oh yeah, it's not important to say that particular word to get this point across. And in fact, I think it does a service better to the point to not say it.
Yeah, I would say that I feel like even in terms of worrying about being empathetic enough, if you're which I don't know if this is right or not, but I feel like if you speak honestly from your own experiences, it's harder to do that maybe. I feel like there are comics saying things that are just oh yeah, people can die if we have to give up 5G or whatever blanket joke they want to make about COVID. But anything that I think people are actually sharing any kind of thought on, if that's funny, I'm wondering how insensitive people are being, short of top level, super easy joke about not caring about people dying maybe. But I feel like if you're speaking about any kind of fear or insecurity or experience that you've had out that has to do with COVID or how you were received, I went to go take my trash out and didn't have a mask on because I was like, oh, I'm going to the back of my own building. There's no one there. But they took my trash to the street. So then I had to walk around the driveway, and in the 5 seconds I was on the street, this homeless lady was like, be safe, all passive. And I was like, I now feel like I have to explain myself to the lady who literally confiscated our recycling bins and made them a part of her home. But she's being a better citizen than me right now. But that would be my COVID joke. But it's if you're talking about something that's an experience that you've had, and if you're honest about whatever guilt or worried or you being irresponsible for a second, it's that's, you can't argue with that.
Yeah. I agree.
Clubs.
We are over time, and I knew very well that this conversation could go on because I love these people so much. I would be curious if first, we have your Twitter handles going by, but are there some things that people could watch and ways that they could support you as artists right now?
So, Myq.
Well, you can Venmo Katrina at I did put this new album out. It's called AKA, and you're watching this online, so you're probably savvy enough to find an album online. But some people are asking, it's on. You can download it on iTunes or stream it on Apple Music or Spotify. You can get a physical copy of it from Blonde Medicine is the name of the record label, blondemedicine.com/AKA. And sometimes people ask, how do you get the most out of it? I want the artist to get the most. I'm like, well, then you can Venmo me directly, all of my social media. You can Venmo me and then rip it illegally for all I care. Send me all the money. And also in my Instagram bio, I have a link that goes to the album, my website, and also a bunch of places you can donate your time and money for Black Lives Matter and related causes. So definitely, take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, take care of each other, take care of strangers, take care of the world, then get my album, and then finish up. I don't know, for that, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Just take care of your basic needs, everyone else's basic needs, then get my album, and then start spiritually self-actualizing if you want and can. But yeah, the album is called AKA. It's all the places comedy albums are. And I do have a podcast also called Broccoli and Ice Cream.
And Atsuko, how about you?
Oh, it's the same story. Well, me and Myq are very similar in our wavelengths and timelines. I have an album out called AKA.
Wait a second.
No, that's not me. I
mean, you can't spell Atsuko Okatsuka without AKA. It's the beginning, the middle, and the end of your name.
That's right. I'm going to piggyback off that and give you the actual name of it. It's called But I Control Me with Comedy Dynamics. So that's out. You can listen to that. Or I have a podcast. I also have a podcast that comes out weekly. It's called Let's Go Atsuko. And it's right now during quarantine. It's been heart to hearts with comedians from all over the world, wherever they are during this pandemic. And then we teach each other things that we didn't know, like something I can do that they can't do, and vice versa. And then we answer questions from the audience and we play games. So yes, that's what you can. But I Control Me or Let's Go Atsuko. Thank you.
And Katrina?
So all my stuff is the same, like my website and everything is the same. It's Katrina Savad. It's just Davis backwards because there's a billion of us, but it's SIVAD, and you can see me on the Seed&Spark special, Everything is Fine, with like
So
6
good.
other female comics that we did a couple years ago. It's pretty righteous. And then on my website, I have a bunch of other like fun videos I've done. Like there's a higher learning one where I get super baked and talk about the government badly. There's like a bunch of fun stuff on there, and I have some online shows coming up. So if you click online shows, or upcoming shows, you'll see everywhere I'll be like in the next week or so. Thanks, everyone.
You guys are amazing. I just want to tell the audience, like the way that we're able to put on these sustainability sessions is from your support. So this is the NPR moment. We also want you to take care of your Maslow's hierarchy of need and go buy all these albums. And then if you have anything left over, even $1, because this meant something to you, you can Venmo us. No, we will put the link in. But all of Seed&Spark's educational programming is provided 100% for free. And if it's valuable to you and you have monetary value to exchange for that, amazing. Otherwise, I hope it was just enriching. I'm so grateful to all of you who are so wonderful. We're going to put up at the very end, because tomorrow is the beginning of Juneteenth. And Hella Juneteenth is providing hella good resources about it. So if you don't know about it, and your job, unlike Seed&Spark, is not giving you the day off, you can spend some time educating yourself digitally. Myq, Katrina, Atsuko, you are the best.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thanks, everyone.
Weirdly.